Hi guys, we're Maddie and Nico. Welcome back to our channel. If you are new here, we are building out this 2020 Ford Transit. Today we are starting our plumbing.
So the first step of plumbing is of course buying a bunch of stuff. So here's our Amazon orders.
Here's all of our stuff.
We got an accumulator, a pump, a strainer. They're all kind of hooked together. And then this little connector piece, which actually came with the accumulator. A SureFlow silencer kit, which are these two hoses. Then we went to Ace. We got a couple tubes, our fresh water hose, pipe cutter for PEX. We got some PEX, but it's in the garage. And just a bunch of fittings and water inlet, which will mount probably about up here somewhere. A couple shut-off valves and just some T's and elbows and whatnot.
This guy.
We also got this guy.
All this will be linked in the description box below. Yeah.
And then of course here's our freshwater tank. So I'll give you a little rundown of our freshwater tank. It's 29 gallons, it fits over the wheel well, and back here we have different inlets. So this is a 1¼ inch inlet. There's also one on top of the tank, which I already have the fitting in there. I think we're gonna go here because it seems like if we have the inlet on top, we could probably fill it up just a little bit more. So I'll probably use this and then plug this hole. Down here we have a 3/4 inch drain. So this is how we drain the tank if we ever need to clean it or anything like that, do maintenance. On the bottom left here we have the water outlet, I guess we could call it. This is where it's actually being pumped from. So this is how we draw water out of it. It'll basically run through this tube, through a strainer, through a pump, to the accumulator, and then out to the faucet or a shower, whatever it might be. And then at the top here we have a vent. This is a 1/2 inch NPT. This just allows air in and out when you're filling or drawing water. On this tank as well, all these different holes and threads are on the opposite side as well. So we did buy some plugs so we can just plug that side. One of the last things we need to do for our water tank is cut a hole right here for the fill port. Just gonna do that with a razor blade, and I have a piece of duct tape just in case this piece of plastic wants to fall in. I don't want that to happen. Just got my fill port cut out. Now I will actually add the fill port. Now before we put pressure on the lines and everything, I'm gonna fill this up, slosh it around, make sure all these fittings don't leak.
And we're just checking for leaks. So we are adding Teflon tape to our threaded connections here. This is our strainer, filter, whatever, strainer I guess. So the thing is about Teflon tape is that you start it on the second thread in from the end, and then you wrap it clockwise around your threads. And the reason you do clockwise is so that way when you tighten whatever you're screwing it into, when that tightens down, you're not going to unthread the Teflon tape. Instead, it'll just tighten with that. And then you want to make sure you go 4 to 6 times around. And so you start at the end, the second thread from the end, and then you work your way back to the pipe, or in this case, the strainer. With the SureFlow silencer kit, this hose actually does have a gasket inside there, so Teflon tape is maybe not 100% necessary, but we figured it's not gonna hurt anything to have a little bit of an extra seal on there. So now we are going to attach our pump to our accumulator and attach the water strainer to the front of the pump. Every connection should just be hand tight. You don't want to over tighten either, because that's also how you can have leaks.
So we just decided that it'd probably be best to mount our pump and accumulator to a piece of Baltic birch and then to the wall, just based off our framing behind the wall. So here's what we have. Strainer to pump to accumulator on a piece of Baltic birch. I pre-drilled some holes to mount it to the side of the wall, just above the water tank. So before I mount this whole piece to the wall, since we have this SureFlow silencer kit, which quiets down the pump noise, obviously there's only that much length from the water outlet to the strainer here. What I'm doing is I'm just putting this fitting in. I'm going to put the SureFlow pipe on just so I know exactly where to put this, because if I put it too far that way, it's not going to reach. So I'm just trying to prevent that. Good morning, it is the next day. It's a beautiful day here and we're gonna try to get some plumbing done. Let me show you what I got done. Coming out of the tank, through this tube, into the strainer, into a pump, into an accumulator. And then this is the last piece of the SureFlow pump silencer. And then now I'm gonna move on to PEX tubing. So here I have a 1/2-inch barb fitting. This is gonna go in here. And then I'm gonna have a little piece of PEX here, and then I'm gonna put a ball valve on, and this will be my main water shut off. So with PEX, there are a bunch of different ways to crimp on or attach your PEX to the barb fittings. We are going with the clamps. I have my PEX here. It's on the barb side. I'll slide that on. Then we have these little clamp rings. They're made by SharkBite. They're 1/2-inch. Basically how they work is you slide it on like that. From the nut of the barb fitting to the ring here, you want about 1/8 to 1/4 inch gap. You slide that on so it fits there. Take your clamp tool, and there is this little raised part of this ring. And what you do is you put that raised part in between your clamps, and then you crush it down like that. So it kind of mushrooms up and pulls this ring around, so it clamps on nice and tight. And that's it. Alright, so this is what I have so far. Off the SureFlow silencer, into a PEX 1/2-inch barb, to a T. This T is going to be our back shower, so we can turn it off here if we want to. From this T, we're going to go straight into this cabinet, all the way over to where the sink is going to be. So I just got to quickly drill a hole in our cabinet so it can get through. Okay, just gonna give you a little rundown of what I've come up with. So here's our main water in, coming out of this wall. We're then gonna go, we're gonna tee it here with this, and it's gonna go up to a water filter. And then when it goes down, I have a shut off, which is gonna be going into the water heater. It's gonna sit like this. And then I need another 90 here, and then another 90 that goes up into the water heater here. So here's my T. This goes up to the water filter, and this will go down to the hot water heater. I'm just going to attach these together. Alright, we just got back from the hardware store, and I got a bunch more PEX fittings. Like Maddie's dad always says, a plumbing job always takes a couple trips to the hardware store, and that is true in this case. One thing I really needed was these female fittings. This is 1/2 inch MPT for a female fitting, and this is what will screw into our hot water heater. They make 2 types of this. I opted for the one that actually swivels, so you can spin this while it's on the PEX, or else you would have something like this. The whole fitting would spin because it's all one-piece brass. This should seal nicely. The way it works is you take your PEX, and before you put the barb on, you want to put the barb through this hole and on your PEX like that. And in my case, I'm having an elbow right here, and I'll show you where this goes. So this is the last bit of our cold water. In this case, it goes up into the hot water heater. So this slides on right here, and then this will go on. I do need to put some pipe sealant or thread sealant on this, but this is the way it'll work. Just like that. I don't know if I showed you this, but I have a ball valve here, so we can just shut off our cold water going into the hot water heater. So if we want to shut off our hot water for whatever reason, this is the valve to do that. And then over here, this part just goes up to the sink, or really it'll attach to our water filter. Our water pump just came in the mail. We got a water drop. Seems like a pretty easy install. Has an in and out port on top. It comes with 2 of these stainless steel braids. And then what's cool is it comes with this little sticker for mounting. So that's where I'm gonna mount it. I find it a lot easier whenever possible, when you're actually making these crimps on all these pieces, to not do it down there. But if you can, just take this whole thing out, and before attaching it, make all these crimps. So I'll pretty much crimp this one, and then crimp here. And then I can crimp this one to kind of lock it in to this cabinet. So I'm able to just take it all out, do my crimps out here, and not in a tight space. So since I didn't record any of the hot water line, because it's pretty straightforward once you know how to do your cold water, it's basically the same thing, but it is red. So here's your hot water line. It goes to the propane water heater over, so it gets teed off right here. If it continues back towards the garage, it goes to our outdoor shower. Other than that, it goes up to our sink. So for the sink line, I have those stainless steel braided tubes coming down. That is just from our sink itself. And then we got some PEX valves that you can see, those silver valves right here. Those just have a barb fitting that connects to the PEX lines and then gets hooked into the stainless steel lines. The hot water one just goes straight up to the sink, and then the cold water one gets wrapped up here and it goes into our water filter that I showed you. So here's our finished product with the propane heater installed. This is an XL propane heater. It's super efficient. It does not have a pilot light, so how it works is when you draw hot water from the sink, the cold water flows in, it activates a sparker which ignites the propane, and once you shut it down, the flame turns off completely. So there's not a little flame down in here at all times, which is good. The hardest thing about the install of this is making sure you have enough clearance in this cabinet if this is how you're going to do hot water like us. I forget the specific clearance dimensions, but you could look that up. But this is basically the clearance that we needed on the bottom and the clearance that we needed on the top and side. So this is kind of the limit of the cabinet size that you want to have this inside. I will put a link down below for the propane heater from Amazon. So here are all the fittings that go up into the propane heater. The propane heater itself is just powered by batteries that just go up into here. And if you do get one of these heaters, sometimes it doesn't want to deliver propane. I don't really know why, but if you're ever having that issue, I found that just taking the batteries out, dropping them, putting them back in has solved it every time. Here we have our propane line, so it just goes from our propane tank back here and then up into this fitting. Again, the hardest part about this install is just dealing with this stuff back here because there's limited space to work with. Let me show you what we're doing with our water tank. Right now I just put these D-rings on the wall, one down there, one here. Those are indoor furring strips through this wall. Basically we're gonna have some straps come from this wall and down to here. These are the D-rings that came with the floor of the van that I just held on to because I thought they might be useful. I'm gonna put one right about here, and I'm making a little mounting piece for this. And basically I have this giant anchor bolt. It's gonna sit on a piece of plywood. It's gonna go through that plywood. I'm gonna drill a hole in our wood laminate, just slightly bigger than that anchor, so it allows room for expansion when the floor gets hot. And then from there it's going to go all the way through our subfloor, so it should be nice and secure. I'll show you those anchors that I built. Here's my anchor there. Alright, I got this bolted down now, nice and secure. I just got to do the backside one. So let me just do that. So now I got both those in. It's not going anywhere. I think that part's done, so we can move on to the next thing. So here's the wiring for the water pump. It's just a positive negative, goes into that wire, runs up to our switch that's located right there. That's our water pump switch, and then that gets routed to our DC distribution panel here. So we can turn on and off our water pump, which I do recommend. Just in case you're driving and something starts leaking, you can actually turn off the water pump itself. It's kind of a safety measure.
We're just doing a quick test of our water system, so I'm about to press the button. What's happening?
It's got water in it.
Should I turn on the sink?
Just maybe give it a sec. Okay, now go in the sink.
So the water does in fact work, which is exciting. I just went around and touched all the pipes, and so far it seems like no leaks.
Alright, I just cut this drain because we didn't need this whole length. The next step in our process, we're going to use some plumber's putty to seal up this edge right here. Just watch a little video on it. You take a bunch of this. You can make a little snake like you would with Play-Doh. Put it around the metal edge here. And then when you tighten the nut down and clamp it onto the sink, the putty should kind of ooze out. And then you take off all the excess. And then it should be watertight. So this is what it should look like all the way around. You got to form your two ends together so they actually seal. So we're going to drop this in now. Once you've tightened down this nut on the bottom of your sink drain, the putty should kind of ooze out like that, and then you can just peel it away.
Okay, so I'm gonna explain our sink drain situation. Here's underneath our sink, got our drain pipe coming down, and we've just hose clamped this flexible tube directly onto that. And then on that end, we're gonna put this piece. This is called a cam lock. And I'll show you how this thing works. Basically, you put this into there, and then you press these down, which is really hard to do one-handed on the slippery floor. Nico, assist perhaps. Yep. So there it is. So now these are locked together like that. So this end will be up in this tube, and then this other end we are attaching to this lid, which goes on our gray water bucket. So we drilled out a bigger hole in the lid, and then we'll do a little demo. We have this piece of white pipe which has pipe thread on the other side that fits inside the cam lock like so. So it just clamps on the lid. Doesn't really matter what this side of this pipe looks like because it's just gonna be inside our tank. So you can do something with a hose bar, but we just needed it to be able to clamp down on the plastic lid. Voila. There we have it. So now I'm just gonna attach this top piece to the tube, and then we'll have our removable gray water tank.
So if you come down here under our cabinet, here is our entire water system. So here's our gray water tank. It holds 7 gallons. We have 2 of these, so we store one here and then we have one in the back. So when this fills up, we just switch it out until we're at a dump station. We have the tube coming down. This is clamped onto the barbed fitting that you saw on the cam lock, and then the cam lock is now glued into here, or glued and screwed. So how it works is when this is full, you just have to go like that, release the cam lock, pull this out, switch the tanks, and then put this back in. So it's not too hard. I do like the system. We have had this tank overflow a couple times, which isn't that big of a deal because this is all waterproofed. So we just had to clean it up a couple times. I guess if I could change something, I would put maybe a metal pan down in the bottom of this. So if we did happen to overflow this, it would be caught in that metal pan. So that's our gray water system. Pretty simple, really easy to use. When we go to the dump station, we just have to dump those tanks down a drain. If you're curious, this is how the cabinet looks when we're living in the van. We have our gray water tank in front. We got cleaning supplies on the bottom side of the cabinet, and then a couple more dish soap, laundry detergent back there. And then I have a sponge holder that's on the right side of the cabinet. And there's the sink itself. Now, if you're curious to see how long it takes to heat up hot water, I will just demonstrate. This is on full hot right now. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It heats up in 4 seconds. So it doesn't use too much water as you're heating it up. And while I'm doing dishes or something, while I'm trying to heat up hot water, I'll catch that water, put it in a cup or a water bottle to drink, or just do dishes with the cold water for 4 seconds. So for those of you who are curious how our rear shower works, we have our shower faucet here. It has a quick connector here. We have this little piece that we bought little quick connect piece that attaches to our shower head. You just plug that in. Once this is plugged in and you have your shower connected to the window, we have this little suction cup here, or you could just hold your shower head. Just turn on the hot water, and there you go. There's our shower. We have a shower curtain that spans across these doors, so you have some privacy if you need privacy. That's going to be the end of this video. Please give it a like and subscribe to our channel if you want to learn how we built out this entire Ford Transit. The water system was fairly simple. It's kind of like Legos. Once you have all the pieces, you just connect them and then you're done. Make sure you test for leaks. We were lucky and we didn't have any. Like I said, I do recommend all those products that we bought, and we will see you in the next video.